extortionate.
You can put yourself on mute.
Really good timing, wasn't it?
Put yourself on mute if you wish,
Yeah.
at any point. And I'll just see whether we've got anyone on that. What I'll do is I'll just wait for a minute or two to enable people to join. The one thing I haven't done is look to see how I see that people are in here or not. So I'm going to be doing this a little bit blind, but hopefully that will be fine. And once it clicks over to 1 minute past 2, I shall start us all off. Right. Okay. So welcome everybody to the first of our consultancy webinars. My name is Mandy Bowden. I'm the lead knowledge exchange officer on the MBTC project and hosting this event for you today. Just a couple of housekeeping issues. During the webinar, you'll only hear myself and our presenters speak, and we'll not be able to see or hear you as a delegate. But after the presentations, we'll be holding a question and answer session and you can raise your questions through the chat bar. If you like someone else's question, you can put a like on there and that will bring it to the top of the pile as well. And a reminder that this webinar is being recorded with the intention to be available to others on demand in the future from our website if they have been unable to attend today's session. So I'll do a quick introduction on the MBTC project and the grants that are available. And then we've got two presentations today, one from Sam Snowdon from Bluescreen IT and one from Sarah Leverton from Fastnet Marketing. And then after those presentations, we'll have the question and answer session. So the Marine Business Technology Centre project is a European funded project led by Plymouth City Council with the research partners as indicated in the slide there. So we have the two universities, one of Plymouth and Exeter, the Marine Biological Association and Plymouth Marine Labs. The project is to support SMEs largely in the Devon area with innovation. So that's design, develop, test, improve. And that is provided through free access, and that is free access to project equipment and expertise for those qualifying SMEs. There's a very quick introduction because we want to be talking about a particular element of the project, and that is the availability of a consultancy grant for businesses. So this is we recognise that within the overall project there will be some businesses that need some help and support that are not covered within the provision. So this grant provides businesses with the opportunity to engage a consultant, bringing expertise into their organisation and helping them with their innovation journey, and get some assistance towards the cost of paying for the consultant to assist them and support their innovation. So it's a fund for a business to engage a consultant. As you see, it's not an enormous total fund budget, 120,000, and we're thinking maybe these are first involvements with a consultant for taster sessions or doing specific actions that support your innovation projects. There's no maximum, but you can see the value of the total fund. So we're thinking probably average grant values of a couple of £1,000, something like that. And for that, you get 75% of your overall costs for consultancy covered by the fund. There is minimal paperwork. We recognise it's a small project, but it is a European funded project. So there is an application form. It's really one page asking what you want. The second page is mostly signatures, and you do complete with myself, Rob, or one of the other partners, knowledge exchange officers, an organisational needs analysis so we can understand what your overall project is trying to do and support your application for the particular consultancy activity. These are some examples of the sorts of works that we have funded or expecting to fund through the fund. We wanted to let businesses know about the sort of work that can be funded, to give you some real examples. So we've set up this series of webinars inviting consultants to come and present about the benefits to the business of engaging a consultant and what those particular consultants can actually provide to your business. There are a few key dates for the grant programme. It was opened last Wednesday. It closes on the 14th of August, so you need to get your application form and your organisational needs analysis completed for the 14th. There'll be an assessment panel later on in August, and we are intending to get the grants decisions out to businesses at the end of August, with the expectation that projects will run through from September to November. And so next steps on a consultancy application is contacting either myself or the project director, Rob Watson, to talk to you about your ideas. You'll see this is a photo of me with pre-lockdown hair. I certainly haven't got that hair anymore, and it may look very different by the end of the week as well. Anyway, I would like to now pass you over to Sam Snowdon, who is the Chief Marketing Officer of Bluescreen IT, and is going to talk to you about issues around strengthening your cybersecurity. So I'll just prepare that for you. So Sam, if you would like to start sharing your screen.
Okay.
Super duper. Waiting for that to come through. You should find a share button. Yes, here it comes.
Coming through.
Yes, it is.
Okay.
And if you'd just like to pop it onto the slide view, and then we'll be able to, should be able to read it then.
Okay, that's good to see the technology's working. So thank you, Mandy. So welcome to my presentation on securing your business. My name is Sam Snowdon, and I head up the sales and marketing here at Bluescreen IT. Bluescreen IT started in 2004 in Plymouth. And over that last 16 years, we've been providing cybersecurity consultancy to global manufacturers, educators, industry and government departments locally and across the UK. Most of our work centres around helping organisations strategise or roadmap their IT security, providing network monitoring to alert clients to potential security breaches, log in their security incidents and events. We also test business cyber resilience to highlight potential weaknesses in their network through vulnerability assessments and penetration testing. The other area we focus on, and under this programme, we are one of 2 accredited Cyber Essentials centres in the Southwest, able to assess your business against the Cyber Essentials standard, which the government have set to show that businesses are taking cybersecurity seriously. The other thing we wanted to raise, we're one of the first UK social enterprise cybersecurity centres in the UK. Our founder and CEO wanted to find alternative ways to combat rising costs in security. So in 2016, he decided to look at how to do this. So he set up a pop-up SOC. 4 years later, we've developed a way of using a combination of leading security technology coupled with developing our own homegrown talent, and that's come to fruition of offering people cybersecurity services at 1/3 of a big player's costs. Basically, we've eliminated the need to underemploy very expensive experts and replace that with machine and locally employed skilled analysts. So cyber isn't that new. Many techniques have been reworked from traditional crimes and scams, and often fueled by businesses, nation states, criminal gangs, activists, customers who are just disgruntled, or simply, people just having a go. So I just wanted to give you a little bit of context to who we are and how we can support. So I want to move on to some facts. So why is it important to look at cyber? Well, certainly in the UK, the average SME cyber attack ranges anything from £6,400 to £20,000, so quite a considerable range. A quarter of SMEs report in 2019 if they had an attack and it's severe, they could only survive less than a month. In terms of volume, there's 57,000 UK SMEs could be at risk of collapse this year if hit by such an attack. So, and Hiscox kind of finally came in with splitting up between small and medium enterprises, and within 2019 they saw a rise from 33% to 47% for small businesses, between 44% to 63% for medium size, and that was across US and Europe. So if you've got your phone to hand, we look at this from a return on investment point of view, and often kind of used to why you invest into things. So if you enter your annual turnover, I'm just going to use a rough example here, nobody in particular, but it's just easy figures, of £1 million, then add your annual payroll to this figure. Roughly that could be a third of your turnover. So 333,000. If we add those two figures together, we get to 1,330,000. I don't know where you are in terms of those numbers. You might be higher than that, you might be lower than that, but point of this exercise is just kind of look on what that could cost us. So we divide this number by the number of weeks in a year. So 52, and that gives us kind of a residual cost of 25,578 per week. So if your business couldn't operate, so that's no sales and cost of staff, you would be looking at 25,578 over that week. Well, we can bring that down slightly more. So if we divide about 7, and then that brings that down to 3,654. On average, an SME roughly takes around 3 days, sometimes longer, sometimes shorter. But kind of lost revenue and labour charges, you're looking at nearly £11,000. So just to put that into context, that doesn't include IP being stolen, that doesn't include downtime of machines, frustration of customers not being able to interact with you, and the information commission officer would also like to hear if you have been breached and if you've got the security controls in place. And they could press 4% charge on your overall turnover, which we've seen some of the big boys like British Airways fall underneath some of those hefty fines. So what I wanted to do is just kind of look at 8 key areas. So these are things as an operation anybody can look at. We can support you in kind of fine tuning these, but I just thought it'd be useful, certainly in today's society where home and mobile working's obviously been pressed upon us. I want to quickly dive into passwords. I want to look at incident management, antivirus on your systems, network security. So if you run a network security, things you may consider, or if you're using a third party, things you may want to ask. The use of removable media, and developing your own human firewall through users and awareness. Okay, so looking at home and mobile, we've got a rising need to work from home. That's quite obvious in terms of keeping it operating at the moment. But the trouble is that security doesn't stop at your office. Instead, it extends to where we need to work, and so does the storage and information and access to the operational systems outside of our business infrastructure, typically accessed over the internet. As directors, we also need to consider mobile devices as part of this mix, and typically where we use these devices are subject to additional risks such as oversight of screens, so shoulder surfing, or theft or loss of devices, which in the wrong hands offers access to your sensitive information or worse. So to start planning, you need to identify what is your essential data. That is the information that your business couldn't function without, and work out who where and how this should be accessed and stored. So make it sufficiently flexible to deal with a range of security incidents that could occur, including the loss or compromise of a device. Policy update apps and anti-malware, including remotely disabling a device that has been lost or at least deny access to the corporate network. Password and 2FA, so we're getting very used to, obviously passwords has been around for quite a while. Two-factor authentication is something which we see more and more, certainly when we're downloading apps onto our phone and certainly with our bank accounts. So ideally, your password needs to be a minimum of 8 characters, preferably 12 to make it harder for those trying to get in. And you've got to remember these hackers, you know, they use computer automation now to unlock your passwords so they can grab a coffee at any time. So, however, you will be amazed that some businesses are still using easily guessed common used words, such as house names, children's names, football teams, pets, boat names. So what things can you do to keep passwords secure? So ditch the no post-it notes. You can look at password managers, which are easily accessible now onto the internet. Set recovery questions and obviously record the answers. Enable your 2FA. And then don't reuse the same password on multiple sites or across your network. You're just making it easier for them to access your network overall. So I went to a recent conference and the Regional Crime Agency were kind enough to do a bit of a talk on this. And just to kind of simplify things, they said, well, you know, instead of a password, think of a passphrase. So something that you know you can remember easily. So this is one I kind of made up earlier, but my first pet was a Siberian hamster in '82. So you can then just swap and use those first letters of each word. You can uppercase it, lowercase it, and obviously use numbers in replace. So MFPWASHI8T. I'm sure you can think of something, but hopefully that kind of just aids you in just thinking differently of how passwords can be used and hopefully make them a bit fun. So incident risk management or response. So it's just how you as an organization looks at your business and how you're going to respond to an incident. So the golden rule, always back up, with various choices ranging from cloud solutions such as AWS, Azure, Google Drive, iCloud, as well as inexpensive options like external hard drives, memory sticks, or look at specialist backup storage. And that's all they do is the backup storage, not the actual storage like Datto. So if you find yourself on the rough end of a ransomware, make sure you act quickly. Get the PC secured or network checked by someone you trust. Reload and restore from a good backup. So it's always essential just to check, and certainly with your IT team, how quickly can you back up? If you expect personal data has been breached, report that data to the ICO, the Information Commissioner's Officer. You may need to contact the police and certainly employ somebody who understands security to check you're still not compromised. So what to consider in your planning. So maintain proper documentation. So document your cyber risk as part of your planning. Keep in mind that cyber risks do evolve. Your response plan should follow and evolve too. Prepare for different scenarios. So no cyber incident is exactly the same. With this in mind, be sure your incident response plan is multifaceted to take on different types of attacks. Test your plan. Similar to your fire alarm tests, make sure everybody's involved and routinely test it just to make sure that it does work in principle. So infection prevention, so we're looking at antivirus and anti-malware. So we're all aware of some of the big brands out there. Some operating systems now come with their own, like Windows. So it's just making sure that you do use that as part of your deployment. But why do hackers use viruses and malware in the first place? Well, they're certainly easy to deploy and doesn't need huge resources to undertake that mission. Common objectives of malware and virus is tricking you into providing personal data for identity theft. They can then resell it on the darknet for cash, hold you to ransom, or leave you in suspense for fun. They're looking to steal consumer credit card data or other financial data. Sometimes it's take control of your multiple computers to launch their own denial of service attacks. That's where they focus many computers towards a particular server to try and down it. And lastly, Bitcoin and cryptocurrencies. Takes huge amount of computer resource to power it. So there's just a way of not actually building their own infrastructure. They just bring you in as part of that. Why? Well, money, power, knowledge, and because sometimes they can for enjoyment. So what's the tips to ensure you protect include? Well, remove any unnecessary functionality from systems that automate admin tasks, often to help you shortcut jobs. Things like remember your password. Fix known responsibilities quickly via patching or updating regularly. Don't delay. Set it as an end of a day routine if you don't want downtime in a day. Install Rep2 antivirus and update regularly. Run system scans regularly to check for infections, and beware of spams and malicious links in emails. We all remember the prince who would offer you plenty of money in exchange of your bank account. So just keeping on that ransomware, because it is one of the most common ways that people do get hacked, but it's evolved in time. So you may have heard of the terms phishing, spear phishing, or whaling. So basically these are emails which are fine-tuned now to persuade or trick their audience at different levels of business hierarchy to access or sign off actions unknowingly. So I've heard cases where people are intercepted between financial directors and got things paid off to the wrong bank accounts. So be very cautious. So what can you notice on the way? Well, you know, slightly misspelled email addresses, occasionally wrong names, certainly poor English. Watch out for embedded links into the email, which is encouraging you to click onto it. Downloading files which, you know, can deploy. We call them payloads, but again, virus and malware into your system. So you can always cross-reference that email against the website domain. You can always check the URL links by hovering over the top of them, and it'll open up the actual full URL link. And the word in an email, does it sound like the person who's actually sending it to? Sometimes they're overly nice when ordinarily it might not be. So don't open emails that don't look legit, because unexpected files attached, and encourage you to download. If you're unsure, go and check with somebody else or run your antivirus software, but yeah, don't open it. So network security. So we look at kind of 7 aims for network security wrapped around the Cyber Central program. So access control. So who can access your network and what can they do in it? It'd be one question you want to ask yourself. Do you know who is accessing your network, and do they have the ability to review and limit users access based on their job requirements? Aim 2, prevent malicious content by using malware checking and scanning services to evaluate where incoming and outgoing data comes from. So do you use malware and antivirus protection at your perimeter as well as on device in your office? Run regular scans to check vulnerabilities. So do you perform these assessments to check your system and networks to check for security holes? Secure your wireless access points, only allowing known devices to connect to your Wi-Fi services. So have you installed security scanning tools to detect and locate unauthorized or cloned spoof wireless access points that you could or be unknowingly pitching your employee or customer data? Aim 5, use network detection and prevention tools and make sure they're correctly installed by someone qualified. Is your network really configured to deny traffic as a default? You can blacklist certain domains. So there's a number of configurations that can be put in place, but it does often take a skilled individual to put those into place. Segregate your network identity, group together, and then isolate systems that are critical to your business, and apply the appropriate network security controls to them. So people who have large pieces of manufacturing kit might be running off old operating systems like XP, and it costs substantial amounts of money to replace that kit and get that operating system up to date. So sometimes you need to separate that out of your network. Are your central services protected as possible? Even other parts of an enterprise being compromised? And then use firewalls to create a buffer zone between the internet and any other network you don't trust and your business internal network. Do you back up your firewall configurations regularly? Would you be able to detect any unauthorized changes to your configuration? So removable media. So we've all had free USB sticks in the past. Hackers are getting much more sophisticated in terms of what they actually put into these USB sticks. So obviously, you know, you probably won't just randomly put a USB stick into your drive. Hopefully you would scan it first with good known antivirus software, and if in doubt, contact sender to confirm it's genuine and from them. The point of looking at this diagram, and I wanted to kind of indicate that criminals hide things like keylogger and bash bunny that can run malicious commands or control the PC, or worse, a USB killer, which could physically destroy your device. So a massive case in, I think it was 2010, Stuxnet, which basically reported destroyed numerous centrifuges in Iran's uranium enrichment facility, basically causing them to burn themselves out. So over time, other groups modified this virus to target facilities including water treatment plants, power plants and gas lines. Well, the point of this example is the virus was walked in and delivered by a USB stick. In this case, the virus then sent false feedback to the main controller, and then anyone monitoring the equipment would have had no indication of a problem until the equipment began to self-destruct. You may think this, you may think Stuxnet originally made the news in 2010, but as of 2018, there have been other viruses based on the same code. And what we tend to see is these iterations of that software getting cheaper and cheaper, and then feeds out in through the black market, through the dark net. So the last critical piece, and it's developing the human firewall. So looking at your staff and users and educating them to protect you and your supply chain. It's important that the security rules and technology provided enable users to do their job as well as help keep the organisation secure. So Airbus last year got hacked through their supply chain. So can you imagine being a supplier when they found out, and I would hazard a guess they might not have even known before they got the call. So to conclude, I've shared some of our top tips here, but happy to help you build a realistic plan. Test your current security stance or help prepare you for Cyber Essentials to help you win government contracts that require that certification. What we wanted to offer everybody was a free 90-day pass to a particular program called CyberSafe, and that helps your network users and yourselves understand the precautions of cybersecurity and help you establish a more security conscious culture. That concludes my talk. I'll hand you back to Mandy and the team.
Brilliant. Thank you very much, Sam. It's a whistle-stop tour just to give you participants an idea of the sort of threats that they need to be aware of to their security. And Bluescreen IT are a potential collaborator with you to do a check on your security and engage further in making sure you all stay safe. Sarah, if you'd like to share your presentation, I'll queue you up ready to present next.
Sure.
That's coming through.
Can you see that okay?
I shall just you want that one. I can see it all right. I shall just get that sent live with your video as well. So now we're seeing that it's not in the slide view yet. So if you'd like to, now it is, it's perfect. You've got your slide view and yourself as the video beside that. So welcome, Sarah.
Hi everybody. Thanks for inviting me along today, Mandy. I'm really pleased to be here. And I just wanted to talk you through what we can offer here at Fastnet, and maybe what might be a good starting point for your business, because investing into marketing, quite often people say, well, we need a new website, or let's have a little look at our brand, or we're going to do some Facebook advertising or some Google advertising. And often the approach to this is quite disjointed. And the trouble is that if this approach is disjointed, it won't work as effectively. Marketing is all about making sure that you have a plan, you have a strategy, and that involves the business as a whole, and then you start to refine that strategy and bring in the marketing tools that you need at the right time to deliver the right value to your business and to deliver the sales that you need. Now, this is obviously particularly important at the moment. We're all coming out of a lockdown. Everybody's looking to gear back up and get their businesses back up and running again, and it's really important that we do this as quickly as possible, and that we ideally do it before our competitors have caught up with us. So now is a really good time to be looking quite seriously at this and how we're going to do some bounce-back marketing to get business back on track. So I'm Sarah. I'm Managing Director here at Fastnet Marketing. I set up the business back in 2015. And we specialise in the marine and outdoor industry, specifically looking at driving sales through marketing, whether that is selling directly online or driving leads to your business in order to sell over the phone or face-to-face. So one of the ways we tend to start off with our clients is through a strategy day. So clients will generally come to us, they'll do a day. Sometimes it's a one-off piece of work, sometimes it's part of a wider project. We have a little look at the business, we take a good holistic view of where they are at the moment and where they want to go. And then we start to refine that down into a marketing strategy, a marketing plan. And then quite often clients then come back to us to put in place parts of that plan, or all of the plan, depending on their own in-house resources and their budgets. So building websites, putting in place advertising, and so on and so forth. So, but it's a really good starting point. So I thought I'd talk you through some of the methodology we use on a strategy day to see if this might be useful to other businesses, and obviously potentially a useful way of spending that grant funding. So what do we cover on a strategy day? Well, the first thing we like to look at is starting really with your customer or your client. So who is your perfect customer? Quite often we find businesses take quite a scattergun approach. When you ask them who their perfect customer is, they're like, anybody that's happy to pay us. What that means is really that you're talking to lots of people, but really appealing to none. So by really drilling down on that, we know what it is about our business that really appeals to that customer, where we're going to find that customer, what particular products that customer is going to buy, and exactly how to talk to them. And that puts us ahead of the pack in terms of both our online marketing or our sort of impersonal marketing, but also in terms of your sales process and speaking to your customer. Why should they buy your product? It's a really obvious question, but one actually that sometimes people don't dig quite so far into the answer as they should do. What's your competitive advantage? Now, this is a really good question to ask yourselves. It involves being quite honest and open about your business and about the competitors around you, and how actually you're going to try and take advantage of your position to position yourself in the right place to make you the authority in your sector. What journey is your customer going to take? This is really important. Quite often we think about actually delivering our service, our product or service, whatever that is. We don't necessarily think about what journey the customer is going to take from start to finish, from initially maybe finding out about our product to them walking away at the end of it. And you notice that all the really good, successful businesses think very carefully about that customer journey, because often that makes up such a huge part of the experience, and it's the thing that people pass on to other people and gets you those recommendations. And then how can you control this journey? And that's a really important thing, because once we know how to control that customer's journey, we can make sure that people are coming in on their journey at one end, we're feeding them through the right systems to make sure that they buy, and then they buy more, and then we're sending them out at the other end to tell their friends and their family and their colleagues to make other people come to your business. So controlling that journey is quite important. So who is your perfect customer? So we look at where they hang out, what do they need to achieve, what problems are they experiencing, what's their decision process, and what's stopping them from buying your product. Now, that took me a few seconds to run through, but actually when we really dig into this takes us quite a while to build out. And what we've got from that at the end of it is what we call a customer persona. Now, most businesses have more than one customer persona. That means that you're targeting more than one type of person. And then when we look at putting out messaging and advertising and wording on your website and all of these other messages that you put out, we're making sure that we know exactly who we're speaking to and exactly the right things to tell them. So it sounds quite obvious, but a lot of businesses don't do it as well as they should do, and we make sure that your business is not going to be one of them. So next, we look at why you're buying your product. We look at features and benefits. We also look at those slightly more nuanced things, like what are the emotional and functional benefits that they're going to get from your product, so that we can start to sell to them in a slightly more sophisticated way. Now, again, this all sounds a little bit fluffy at the moment, but actually, once you start to understand this method of working, you notice that all the big established companies are doing this. They're dialing in on their customers on a number of different levels to get those sales, and it really does work. And we look at what insights we can have about those customers to take advantage of that in our marketing, to be really targeting our approach. And we look very honestly about what the objections are going to be. It's only by really honestly and openly answering objections that we can really start to deliver those sales. And of course, we're all about getting customers over the line, signing up and being able to deliver the service that, that your business provides. And we look at what makes your customers look good and also what makes them feel good. And we always say that the people are looking for three things when they're buying a product. They want something that makes them look good, they want something that makes them feel good, and they're looking to solve a problem. Now, a lot of companies just focus on the problem element. And actually, if you can dial in the look good and feel good at the same time, it means that you've got, again, that extra edge on your competition. So this is a really silly example, but I always think it's the one you always see on the adverts, is the pain relief adverts. Now, what are you selling with pain relief? You're saying, well, I'm going to make your headache go away. And we could just say that on the advert, can we? All of those adverts could just say that. But actually, you know, people get a bit more sophisticated about these things, especially the big companies. They tap into emotional benefits. So, you know, nothing's going to get in your way today because you haven't got your headache anymore. We look at functional benefits about you getting on with your day. We look at the product features, so it's the fastest working, you know, it's the smallest tablet, it's the whatever that might be. And then we try to look at the insights that we know about our customers. So, you know, this customer might be somebody that doesn't like to sort of admit that they have headaches because they don't want to come across as a maintainer. So we're using that target and insight to get in under the skin of somebody and go, oh yeah, no, that's me, I relate to that. So it's a really silly example, but hopefully you get the idea of how tapping into those different sectors can help you to build up your marketing collateral and those messaging that you're putting across when you're looking at driving a sale. We then look at any objections, which I mentioned in my earlier slide. Now, these objections tend to be focused around the need of the customer. I don't need it, I don't want it. The value, well, you know, that's not in my budget. You know, I want a lower price. That's often the one that businesses struggle with, because actually, you know, you don't want to be selling at rock bottom prices. You want to make a profit. You want to make a good product for a good price. And often it's that driving that price down that customers struggle with, or businesses struggle with when selling to their customers. So we look at ways of being able to overcome those objections to pricing and costing by looking at what value you're delivering and pitching yourself in a slightly different way. We then look at the features of the product and whether or not we can make those features fit the customer's need. If we can't make them fit, it's not your perfect customer, but we just look at how we can overcome those objections. And then there's the desire objection. They just don't like your product or service or some aspect of it, or they feel uncomfortable with it, in which case we can look at how we can overcome these things. Is there a bit of a sticking point in your sales process, something that isn't quite right with what you're doing that affects that desire aspect of somebody wanting to buy your product or service? And we can look at how we can overcome that. We then dive into your competitive advantage. So we take a very honest look at who are your main competitors. You know, what do they do well? We look at this idea of setting landmines. Now, I won't give you too much on this because I've spent a lot of time developing this landmark thing, and it's quite a big thing about my strategy day, but it looks at how we can take the messaging that your competitors are putting across and kind of turn it on its head to give you the advantage. And we look at your competitive landscape and where you fit within it, and where you want to be, so we can have a little look at how you're going to position yourselves in your sector. So this is quite a good example of a competitive landscape. It's one that I just stole off the internet. It compares, ironically, Microsoft Teams that we're using at the moment with things like Slack and Zoom and email, and we look at how they are, where they all sit in the sector. So, you know, what are they trying to achieve? Which one has the best fit in a particular situation? What are they struggling with? Now, that's a really important one, because if you're trying to get into a competitive sector, it's that struggling moment that is going to be the way in. We look at what's at stake. if they can't overcome that struggle, why people would look at switching to you over and above your competition, and then we start to build up what we call the big dominoes. So it's that piece of marketing collateral that means that you can adjust your messaging to overcome the competition. So anyway, as I say, this is a very whistle-stop tour, but we go into that in a lot more detail on a strategy day, and it really helps you to position yourself to be as competitive as possible. And then we dive into the customer journey. Now, this is where it really starts to form into a plan. Up until now, we've just been gathering the information we need to build that plan. This is now where the plan starts to come together. So we look at what are your features and benefits. We go over that, the emotional functional benefits and targets and insights. We pull all of that together that we've had a little look into later on, and we start to build out your marketing journey. So when customers first, or potential customers, start to become aware of you, we look at those at the awareness stage. So we know at that point in time that they might have a problem. So there might be something that they're looking to solve, and that's why they're looking to use your service. Or it might be that they don't know they've got a problem yet, in which case, how are we going to highlight to them? So we're either raising awareness of the problem itself, or we're highlighting how we are well placed to solve that problem. And that's all part of the awareness stage. So once we've put out targeted messaging in that awareness stage, we look at the consideration stage. So this is where people are starting to think about how they're going to solve this problem, which company are they going to use? Are they going to use you over and above the competition? So this is quite a critical time in terms of making that sale. And this is all about education. So you'll notice when you're, again, with some of the bigger players, when they'll spend a lot of time on education. You know, they'll explain to you the processes behind things. They'll explain to you the ideology behind it. They'll explain to you how the process works. They'll make sure that you're educated, because once you're educated, you can make an educated decision. And of course, that educated decision would fall by going to your company rather than your competition. So the consideration stage is really important. We look at how you can use that within your marketing to get more people over the line. And then, of course, there's the decision stage. So this is often about making sure that we get people to take a decision in a timely fashion. We've made them aware of their problem. We've showed them why we are the right choice. Now we need to get them over the line. And that's often about making sure that we've got mechanisms and means of getting them to make that decision quickly. That might be a special offer. It might be, sign up today and get this if you sign up within a certain time frame. It might be a supply and demand thing. You know, we've only got 5 left in stock. Whatever that might be, there's a whole range of ways we can do that depending on your type of business. But it's all about getting that sale over the line and getting money in your pocket. So these are just some examples of customer journeys that have been developed within various sectors. So when we're then splitting it out from a practical point of view, because what we've discussed so far is quite theoretical, we look at the different questions that people ask at the different stages of their customer journey. We look at what they're feeling. We're looking at what they're needing to address. We're looking at how we should be speaking to them. It might be that initially they want to have a conversation with somebody on a chatbot on your website because they're quite loosely committed at that stage. They're just looking at getting a bit more information. Later on, they might want a one-to-one workshop with you in order to find out more information about your product or service. Every business will be different. Every customer journey will be different, but it gives you a bit of an idea of how we work out this matrix of what marketing and what sales materials to put across and when. This is just another example of a customer journey map. The reason I included this one is just to show that everyone is different and we split them up in a different way. We use different ways of doing that. So how can you control this journey? Well, we look at ways to engage, ways to actively push people through the journey, and the way we're going to do that, it might be through putting out information on your social media, it might be through your website and making sure that you're coming up for the right search terms, it might be some targeted advertising, it might be getting in touch with the right groups online, you know, there's forums and so on and so forth. It might be about face-to-face networking, although that feels a bit alien at the moment in this COVID lockdown, but you know, it did happen once upon a time. So we look at the ways in which we're going to engage people and get them onto that journey. We look at how we can get people to find us over the internet. This is what we call content clusters. I'll go into a little bit more on that in a moment. We look at getting a really good CRM system in place. So this is a client resource management system. This is basically a way of being able to track potential leads and existing customers, so you know where these new customers are coming from. We know what stage of the journey they're on. We can track and measure what's going on, and do more of the things that work and maybe do less of the things that don't work, and making sure that you're getting the maximum return on your investment, and that comes under tracking your success. So these are the ways of kind of pushing them through that journey. So I think I mentioned this before. We've got kind of getting people in the first place, through them finding you online. It might be through content on your blog. It might be directly through your website, social, advertising, marketing, etc. We then look at how we're going to convert them. So when we say convert, quite often we mean not just initial sale, but getting their details, their information, so that we can retarget them, we can speak to them again, and we can start to educate them on that journey. We then look at closing. So remember about this urgency. We need to put the close in place, make sure that they're over the line and they're signing up and they're paying their money. And then we look at how we're going to delight them afterwards. And this is all about looking after your existing customers and getting your existing customers to bring in more customers. And that is what we call a marketing funnel. And this is what we're going to end up with at the end of the strategy day. We're going to end up with a loose idea of what our marketing funnel is going to look like, what our marketing strategy is. And how we're going to utilise that on a practical level moving forwards. This is just another way of sort of looking at sort of marketing funnel. Some people break it into before purchase, during purchase, and after purchase. This tends to relate more to businesses that are directly selling online. We're obviously looking at two sort of slightly different types of businesses here. Most of the time, you're looking at those that sell direct online and those that are a bit more of a consultancy type, client type business. And we have slightly different sales funnels depending on your business type. This is the funnel simplified, as we looked at earlier, and the various types of ways we do it. So marketing and sales really come together at this point. On your left, you've got your marketing, and this is about the messaging we're putting out, which we mentioned earlier. So making them aware, making sure that we've got everything in place to capture their details, building authority and educating them on what we have to offer, making sure they're properly engaged and ready to commit, and then getting them to advocate for you once they've bought. And on the sales side, we're making sure that we're answering all those objections the whole time, making sure we're addressing their problem, making sure we're providing the interest and evaluation that they need in order to convert, making sure that we're giving them the right things in order for them to justify their purchase and consider you as the provider of what they need. Looking at how we can close the deal from a sales perspective and upsell to them as well, making sure we're getting the most out of that sale, and making sure we've got the customer service in place to ensure that they are advocating us as clients. And we roughly refer to that as top of the funnel, middle of the funnel, and bottom of the funnel. So rounding up now, I'll move on from that slide. This is just a bit more information about those different funnel types. And then we look at how we're going to get people over the line. Now, a lot of the time now, especially now that we're not communicating so much face-to-face with people, it's really important that people are finding you on the internet. It's, for a lot of companies, not every business, but for a lot of businesses, it's the first stage on that journey. So what we then look at with that funnel is making sure that we're delivering the right content to the right people at the right time. So this is a really good example. If you were a local gym, you're looking to build back up your customer base post-lockdown, you're looking at making more people aware of you. Well, one of the good ways to put it out is, instead of just putting out a bog standard advert on social media, you could push out some really practical tips on workout routines, how to work out at home, how to transition back into the gym, how to increase your strength. You can start to build up a really good following online by people looking for practical tips on how to do things. And of course, if you've given them those tips, if you've set yourself up as the authority, then people are much more likely to come to you when it comes to choosing which gym they go to. So this is a really silly example, but you can start to see how that works. So we build what we call a pillar content, which is the workout routines. It's a piece of content that we know that people are going to be interested in. We know your customers are going to be interested in, and then we build a number of different pieces of content around that. It means that when they search for these things, or they're looking on social media, or they're looking on LinkedIn, or wherever it is your customers are finding out, we reel them in with a really good piece of content that gets them interested in your services. And then we look at, once we've run the strategy day, we put we help you to build out your strategy. We help you to put them in place if you'd like us to. But then the most important thing is that we're constantly analysing how that's working. We can help you to put in place ways of analysing your marketing. So you're no longer just chucking 50 quid at this, 100 quid at that, 500 quid at this, and just hoping that something sticks. It's all about really targeted marketing, where every penny you spend has a direct result on your on your bottom line. And if it's not having that result, why isn't it having that result? Where are things falling through the cracks? So that over time your marketing gets more and more and more efficient. You're spending less money to get better results, and we can help you put in place, you know, KPIs and ways of monitoring that. So that was a bit of a whistle-stop tour. I think it's slightly less than I think, yeah, pretty much dead on my 20 minutes. So I hope that's okay. But
very good timing.
Yeah. So that's about it really. And obviously, if anybody has any questions, I'm very happy to answer them a bit later on.
Brilliant. Thank you very much, Sarah. I shall just put up a content slide, so we've got something to have a look at, because I think we've had a few questions come through that we can address. Just bear with me for a moment. Right. Okie dokie. Right. Okay, so looking at the questions, we've got what are the main criteria for grant applications and how are the bids going to be assessed? I think that's going to be for me to answer. So the criteria for the grant applications is a number of points. It looks at how the application fits within the criteria for the project, whether the eligibility of the business applying for that is a SME and in Devon. Those are fixed criteria, and then it looks at the project that the SME is trying to get support for, so how innovative that is, how that fits within the intention of the project overall, the MBTC project. So there's a number of criteria that we will look at, and they will be the criteria to be assessed for approval of funding for the grants. Got a question that is probably going to be for you, Sam, that is around, is it a legal requirement to operate in line with Cyber Essentials, or is it a recommendation?
Recommendation.
It is right. Okay. And as a follow-up on that one, if a business wanted to operate in defence, does that become a requirement rather than a recommendation?
So supplying most government functions require the Cyber Essentials, probably stepping up to the Cyber Essentials Plus as a program. But on top of that, people are familiar with the ISO accreditation, particularly in Cyber 27001. So it depends what contract you're going for, but more and more when you're trying to certainly tender for business with government, you'll see a whole section now on cyber, and the Cyber Essentials program allows you then to kind of just focus in on that and go through the exercise of achieving those kind of minimal requirements. So Cyber Essentials, for anybody who's listening, is very similar to, well, it's not very similar, but relates to things like when you MOT your car. It just ensures that you've got the right controls in place to eliminate, you know, kind of 80% of vulnerabilities.
Mm-hmm. So that is a requirement for some industries or some suppliers that a business might want to be engaging with.
Definitely so, yeah.
Okay. And would you say that increased security can mean that a business can operate more efficiently and in new ways, or is it a time-consuming burden to a business?
Yeah, it's an interesting kind of way of looking at it, because the burden comes if you get breached.
Yeah.
So it's like any sort of systems. I'm sure for Sarah, when she's setting up systems within the sales and marketing, it's all of these things are a bit of a burden, but once they're in place and you see the efficiencies they create. The other part we always think is just it allows businesses to focus back on the business. They're not worried. You know, because quite often you hear the term, you know, what keeps you up at night? And security is always one of those areas. Cash flow is always one of those issues. So at least if you know you've got the kind of principal points in place, and then yes, you're going to sleep much better. I wouldn't call it a burden, although yeah, it varies a lot to kind of do sometimes.
Yeah, brilliant. Okay, thank you. And then we've got a question around marketing, whether running a marketing campaign could be eligible spend for a grant. So from the grant perspective, yes, that is eligible spend as long as the marketing campaign for this project or for this funding does support your innovation activity. So I don't know, Sarah, if you wanted to add anything to that along the sort of activities that you might be looking at for, I suppose with innovative, that's either going to a new area for a business, a new sector, promoting a new product or service, or bringing something totally new to market. Is that the sort of thing that your marketing consultancy could support?
Oh, definitely. So most of the time, businesses will approach us when they have got like a momentous thing happening, whether that's, you know, initially starting up a business, or as you say, they're bringing a new product to market. They're looking to innovate in other ways within their business, and then they're making making sure that their marketing is dovetailing with that. So definitely, yeah. I mean, I think that fits in really nicely with that criteria.
Super. Okay. I've got another one. We've got a couple of minutes left. Could I use the grant to contract a professional presenter to represent my business? So yes, if you are using if you maybe a startup and you're needing some support to perhaps represent your new product or your new concept for your innovation, then yes, that would be a potentially a supportable action. Whether the you have to source the right consultant for your business that you felt engaged with your business in the right way. But yes, that would be an eligible expenditure. I don't know whether, Sarah, you do that sort of action when you're talking about delivering marketing plans for businesses, whether that's something that you would do within your organization. It's representation of a business's technology. I would imagine it's important to get the right knowledge behind the particular innovation.
Yes, so I guess what we'd sort of say with that really is a lot of the time, rather than us kind of representing a business as a marketing company, we would train individuals within the business to present that company in a way that fits with their marketing campaign. So if you wanted a member of staff to be able to represent the business and have that key wording and be able to talk customers through every stage of your sales funnel in an effective way, we can do that that training as part of sort of the strategy build up to make sure that people are confident in doing that, and that they have the expertise and the knowledge in place to do that effectively. And often that can make quite a big difference. Just a little bit of training can really get salespeople from a good salesperson to an excellent salesperson. So yes, we could help with that in terms of utilising your own resources.
Yeah, we have this grant fund has already been soft launched some months ago, and we had a couple of preliminary applications, and one of them was to build a business plan for an innovative way of harnessing precious metals from the sea, and that particular inventor wanted some support also to go to the next stage, which sounds very much like the sort of professional representation or presentation of the project that this query was asking about. And then the final question at the moment is, if I have a project that needs support before the end of August, can I get a decision on a proposal before the deadline date of the 14th of August? Probably not, but I would hate to turn any ideas down. So what I would say is, if you talk with myself or Rob to explore your ideas. The plan has been that we have a date at which we assess all applications so that we can look at the benefits of each one and decide which ones to support. However, if there was something urgent that came in, we would maybe be able to look at that as a case-by-case basis. So I hate to say no to anyone at this stage. So I hope that answers all the questions I've seen coming through. Thank you for helping me on that, Rob. And I hope everyone has found this a useful exercise and informative. The recording will be placed on the website, and links will be sent out to those people that couldn't attend today or didn't manage to join for whatever reason, so that they can access the details that we've had explained. I'd just like to finally thank our superb presenters, Sarah and Sam, very much for joining us today to tell us about cybersecurity and marketing plans, both worthy things that we would really like to be supporting through the grant provision. So with no further questions coming through, let's say thank you and good afternoon. Have a good rest of the day.
Thank you, everyone.
Thank you. Bye-bye.
Bye.